Welcome to Gartner ThinkCast. I'm Karen Stokes Lockhart. Today, we're focusing on software engineering and how it must evolve in a world driven by generative AI. You'll hear from a few of our software engineering experts, Manjunath Bhat, Akis, Sklavounakis, and Shameen, Pillai. They'll explore the team structures that help scale GenAI to repeatable delivery, the platform patterns that cut cognitive load and help drive value, and the API or application programming interface strategies that AI implementation can't function without. First up, here's Gartner Distinguished VP Analyst Manjunath Bhat to explain the difficulties around scaling GenAI and how adopting the right team topologies can help.
Scaling generative AI application delivery is incredibly hard based on what Gartner surveys have revealed. Identifying the right use cases, honing in on the right use cases makes it easier to demonstrate business value. Meeting security and governance requirements at scale is also very difficult when you have multiple applications and use cases. You're looking at choosing the appropriate design patterns in architecture, whether you should use open versus closed models, or you should use self-hosted versus third-party APIs directly. The perils of an uncoordinated approach to implementing generative AI, I would count as three things. First is low FinOps awareness, that is related to token costs, GPU costs, inferencing costs. Second is security and compliance violations. This could lead to potential reputational damage. And third is a lot of inconsistent practices, leading to duplicated effort and poor quality, which ultimately hinders your ability to scale innovation across the organization. Gartner recommends adopting a team topologies approach as an organizing principle to structure your engineering teams. The team topologies approach recommends 4 different kinds of teams. The first is product teams, which in the team topologies parlance is called stream-aligned teams. These are your regular application teams building customer-focused functionality. The second is enabling teams. The idea of an enabling team is to bring together specialized expertise. Think of these as internal consultancies. In many ways, enabling teams are the teams that help drive new capabilities within the organization, and generative AI happens to be one of the new capabilities that you will be rolling out within your organization. Additionally, what you could also think of is creating subsystem teams. These in the team topologies construct are called complicated subsystem teams because they reduce complications and they also reduce cognitive overload for your teams. The complication increases exponentially when you embed generative AI applications, move towards extending, and finally when you're trying to build your own models. Once you have identified enabling teams, product teams, and the subsystem teams, lastly, you have platform teams. Platform teams help ensure consistency and also provide a curated experience for the rest of your teams. So put all of these together, and what you find is a very healthy recipe for scaling generative AI capabilities across all applications and use cases. A great example of a leading organization that has implemented this construct is Verizon. They have 2 kinds of teams. One, which they call Generative AI Center of Excellence, which maps to enabling teams within the team topologies construct. And within these enabling teams, Verizon has assembled experts from not just IT, but also risks, legal, and finance teams. So all of this makes it easier to disseminate expertise, spread knowledge, and spread best practices. They have a very interesting pattern when it comes to platform teams. So their platform teams provide a curated experience, but think of this as when you have to implement a design pattern like generating new content, that design pattern actually triggers a workflow that goes all the way from choosing the right tools, providing reusable components, plus also templatized workflow. So all of this together means that your development teams don't have to think for themselves. So everything is provided as a recipe. To embark on this journey of scaling generative AI applications, you should take a 3-pronged approach. First, inventorying your current applications and use cases. Second, identifying scaling issues and competency gaps that may exist. And lastly, institutionalizing best practices across the organization So your applications don't just end up as prototypes, but actually go to production. By implementing these strategies, you can ensure that both your internal employees are productive and creative, plus your external customers get the most out of your generative AI investments.
Next, Gartner Senior Director Analyst Akis Sklavounakis walks through how great people aren't enough if the surrounding work environment slows them down, and why platform engineering clears the path for high velocity development and delivery. Here's Akis.
What is killing developer productivity? It is the cognitive load. It is the complexity of the software environment that software engineers are faced nowadays. If you look at complexity of the software environment, it has increased hugely in the last couple of decades. And now with AI, the environment is even more complex. So we find that the most effective approach in improving developer productivity, improving the developer experience, it's actually implementing platform engineering. Platform engineering is this discipline of building and operating self-service internal platform that help your developers deliver faster, better, easier. And this is different from traditional engineering of platforms because platforms were typically something that would come top down. So you would have architects and leadership coming up with a platform for everyone to use, and they were not optional, they were mandatory. While in platform engineering, we're building these optional platforms, these optional ways of building software that developers can use because it's the easiest way of doing, because it's the path of least resistance. So to make your platform engineering initiative successful, you need 5 foundational principles. You need to be running your platform as a product. You need to bring product management discipline into platform engineering. You need to be demand driven, understand what are the biggest pain points of your developers, and ensure you address those first. Ensure that you're building compelling paths for building software that your engineers will use. Ensure that you have self-service functionality. We want the information and the functionality and the service to be there for them when they need it. We can start with the thinnest viable platform. So start small and build on top of that. It's very important to consider all the stakeholders when you want to measure the success of platform engineering. The number one, of course, are the product teams. So you have to, first of all, understand what do they care about. Then you need to look at indirectly maybe the end user. For whom are we building solutions for as an organization? You may have a software engineering organization that is thriving, but the business results are not there. So we need to be looking always at the business results. We need to also look at other stakeholders in the organization. Your finance, your operations, your infrastructure. What do they need from the platform engineering team? And finally, of course, the platform engineering team themselves. Are we helping our developers the best way possible? Keep asking your engineers what are their biggest pain points, what are the biggest challenges, and invest in addressing those. So platform engineering is the way to improve developer productivity and developer experience so you can deliver your organization's digital ambitions.
To close things out, Gartner Senior Director Analyst Shameen Pillai explains how even with teams aligned and platforms in place to reduce friction, AI implementation still isn't possible without proper maturity of APIs, the way the software systems communicate with each other. Now, here's Shameen.
It's going to be a huge mistake to not have your API strategy in locksteps with your AI strategy. This is true for generative AI initiatives, and it's even more so true for agentic AI projects too. No APIs mean no GenAI, no agentic AI, period. Poorly managed or insecure APIs don't just put your AI initiatives at risk, but also your organization's data and digital assets at risk too. So GenAI influences every single aspect of API strategy. And adopting GenAI-based tools can help you mature different dimensions of your API strategy. The thing is, GenAI applications and agents
rely directly on APIs for data, context, and functionality. So if your APIs are not well managed, then your AI agents won't function effectively, which put your AI initiatives at risk. So let's look at some tools that can help support your API strategy in the following areas. There are gateways, security, developer enablement, and tools to improve the API lifecycle. For example, for gateways, there are many lightweight modern gateways that already provide AI enablement capabilities. Now we are seeing more specialized gateways like AI gateways, MCP server gateways coming up in the market too. For API security tools, there are specialist API security tools out there that'll help generate security and access management policies for AI initiatives and to provide proactive threat protection. There are also solutions that can help with design time security too. For developer enablement, GenAI can create APIs from natural language descriptions of API functionality. For example, there are tools that can do that today, creating API implementation code in different programming languages and so on. And finally, for lifecycle management, generative AI can help identify and prioritize APIs to build. You can automate design time validations and standards enforcement. And also, now we are seeing tools that are coming up that will help you create agentic workflows to do API governance as well. Hundreds of organizations use these techniques already to improve their API strategy. I think what we would anticipate in the near future is the use of agentic AI to improve the API governance itself by automating the processes to support API governance. By 2028, more than half of API usage will come from AI, not developers. So if you don't have a mature API strategy soon, you won't be able to support AI and you are going to get left behind. The best way to identify where you stand on your maturity level is to do a formal assessment. Now, Gartner offers an API strategy maturity model. It has 5 dimensions: business alignment, developer enablement, API security, lifecycle management, and API governance. So for each of these dimensions, there are 5 maturity levels: initial, developing, defined, managed, and optimizing. So for example, if you are at the optimizing level for business alignment, you are already using well-established KPIs and metrics that's closely aligned to your business goals to measure the success of that API strategy. Now let's talk about developer enablement. You're not only supporting human developers effectively, but also catering to AI developers and AI and agentic consumers too. For API security, advanced levels would indicate that you're already transitioning from proactive security to predictive security model, and you also have a well-integrated threat detection along with advanced monitoring and reporting. Now, for optimizing level for lifecycle management, you would not only have well-established tooling in place and well-established processes in place, and you also have a high degree of automation. For API governance, that means that you are continuously evaluating and optimizing across governance policies. And you also have a highly automated policy enforcement for each step in the process. So once you have identified your API strategy maturity model, so the next question is, how do I then improve it? For business alignment, ensure that you have an API product manager role that's in charge of ensuring that your API strategy aligns with your business goals. For developer enablement, implement developer relations to deliver strong developer experience, create design standards, practices to drive consistency and quality of APIs, and really implement automated processes to ensure self-service registration and development. For API security, implement API discovery, adopt specialist AI-based API security tools, perform regular review of agentic and other use of APIs. For lifecycle management, implement API management solutions to manage the entire lifecycle of APIs. Use distributed API management. Capitalize on emerging tools like AI gateways and MCP server gateways, etc. And lastly, for API governance, create governing policies for API management across all parts of your organization. Ensure that your subdivisions, your line of businesses, all participate and contribute to creating API policies. And implement automation of validation of API policies and governance standards as much as possible. So the question comes down to, what do I do now? Create an action plan to evaluate where you stand, involve your API consumers, developers, key business holders, and find what your organization's top business goals are. Right? That way you can get your API strategy on the right track.
Thanks for listening to this latest episode of ThinkCast. You just heard from Gartner experts Manjunath Bhat, Akis Sklavounakis, and Shameen Pillai. To learn more about this topic, follow the links in the notes below. ThinkCast will be back wherever you listen to podcasts a week from today. In the meantime, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with a colleague so neither of you will miss an episode.